The medical scanner beeped 3 times, then went silent. Dr. Nilram stared at the display screen, his thin fingers tapping against the console in a pattern that revealed his growing confusion. Across the examination table, Alan Reed sat patiently in his uniform undershirt, waiting for the Orvathi physician to finish the quarterly health screening that every crew member aboard the GCS Pathfinder had to complete. "Something wrong, Doc?" Alan asked, swinging his legs slightly. The metal table was uncomfortably cold, but he had learned not to complain about small discomforts during his 8 months serving as the ship's human medical officer. Dr. Nilram's large, dark eyes blinked twice, a sign of deep concern in Orvathi body language. "I am running the scan again. The results cannot be correct." Alan watched as the doctor adjusted several controls and initiated another full body scan. The blue light passed over him from head to toe, collecting data about his internal systems, organ function, and overall health status. This was the same scanner that had processed 47 different species without issue since the Pathfinder began its research mission 6 months ago. The machine beeped again. This time, Dr. Nilram made a soft clicking sound in the back of his throat that Alan had come to recognize as the Orvathi equivalent of a worried sigh. "Your core temperature is reading at 37 degrees, the doctor said slowly. "For most species, this would indicate a dangerous fever state. Your cognitive function should be impaired." "That's normal for humans," Alan explained, not for the first time. He had gone through similar conversations during his initial medical certification, but apparently the reminder hadn't made it into his file properly. Dr. Nilram pulled up a comparison chart on his secondary screen. "Your blood oxygen saturation is at 98%. The Quentari engineer nearly died last month when her levels dropped to 95%. You should be experiencing severe respiratory distress." "Also normal," Alan said, trying to keep his tone friendly and educational rather than frustrated. "Humans operate fine at these levels." The Orvathi doctor moved to the next reading, his expression growing more alarmed with each data point. "Your stomach contains hydrochloric acid with a pH level of approximately 2. This is strong enough to damage most organic tissue. The scanner is registering it as a chemical hazard." Alan nodded. "That's how we digest food. The acid breaks down what we eat so our bodies can absorb nutrients." "But this would dissolve metal," Dr. Nilram said quietly, pulling up a molecular breakdown of human stomach acid on the screen. "Your species contains caustic materials inside your body as a normal function." "Pretty much, yeah." The doctor stepped back from the console, his movements careful and measured. In the 8 months Alan had known him, he had never seen Dr. Nilram look genuinely frightened before. The Orvathi were known throughout the galaxy for their calm, methodical approach to medicine. They didn't rattle easily. "I need to consult with the xenobiology department," Dr. Nilram said, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly as he reached for the communication panel. "Please remain here. Do not leave the medical bay." "Am I in quarantine?" Alan asked, sitting up straighter. "Not officially," the doctor replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. "I simply need additional analysis before I can clear you for duty. These readings are highly irregular." Before Alan could respond, the medical bay doors opened and 2 more staff members entered. A Fenral nurse named Pala approached with a concerned expression on her furred face, while a Tyrian medical assistant, whose name Alan couldn't remember, began setting up additional monitoring equipment. "Dr. Nilram sent an urgent request for assistance," Pala said, her ears flat against her head in obvious worry. "He indicated a possible multi-system organ failure in progress." Alan raised his hands in a calming gesture. "I feel fine, completely healthy. This is just a misunderstanding about human biology." But the medical team wasn't listening. They were gathered around Dr. Nilram's console, reviewing the scan results with increasing alarm. Alan caught fragments of their conversation as they spoke in rapid, technical terms about his various biological systems, and how each one appeared to be operating in ranges that would be catastrophic for their own species. The iron content in the blood could cause oxidation damage, the Turian assistant was saying, pointing to a molecular diagram. The muscle density relative to body mass violates standard efficiency ratios, Pala added, her tail swishing nervously. Dr. Nilram pulled up Earth's atmospheric composition and compared it to the life support systems aboard the Pathfinder. 21% oxygen concentration. Most species would consider this a fire hazard. How does cellular respiration not cause constant internal damage? Alan decided to try a different approach. Look, I know this seems weird, but humans have been living with these biological systems for millions of years of evolution. We're adapted to Earth's environment. Everything you're seeing is completely normal and healthy for my species. Earth, Dr. Nilram repeated, typing the planet designation into the galactic database. His eyes widened as he read the environmental data. Surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. That's nearly twice what we maintain on this ship. Solar radiation exposure is classified as moderate to high risk. Temperature variations range from below freezing to extreme heat depending on seasonal and geographical factors. The doctor turned to face Alan directly. You evolved on a planet that actively hostile to most known forms of life. We just call it home, Alan said with a shrug. Pala moved to a storage unit and retrieved a breathing apparatus. We should place him on supplemental oxygen immediately. His levels are critically low. Please don't, Alan said quickly. Too much oxygen can actually be harmful to humans. We're fine with normal atmospheric mix. The three medical professionals exchanged glances that clearly communicated their shared doubt about Alan's self-assessment of his own health. Dr. Nilram made a decision. I am calling Captain Dren and requesting an emergency consultation with the full xenobiology team. Until we understand what is happening with your biology, I cannot in good conscience allow you to continue regular duties. Alan opened his mouth to protest, then closed it again. He could see the genuine concern in their faces. They weren't trying to be difficult. They honestly believed he was dying, that every system in his body was failing simultaneously, and that he was somehow too confused or impaired to recognize his own critical condition. Can I at least get some coffee while we wait? He asked. Dr. Nilram nodded, grateful for any request he could actually fulfill. He gestured to the small beverage dispenser in the corner of the medical bay. Alan slid off the examination table and walked to the machine, selecting his usual order. The dispenser hummed and produced a cup of hot, dark liquid that steamed slightly in the recycled air. Alan took a sip, savoring the bitter taste and the warmth spreading through his chest. Behind him, he heard Dr. Nilram gasp. The doctor was staring at his scanner, which had automatically analyzed the liquid the moment Alan brought it near his mouth. On the screen, bright red warning text flashed a simple message about the chemical composition of coffee and its potential effects on biological tissue. The Orvathi physician's voice was barely a whisper. You just voluntarily consumed a substance that the scanner classified as toxic, a mild poison that can cause cellular damage and cardiovascular stress. Alan looked down at his coffee, then back at the horrified medical team. This was going to be a very long day. The conference room held an unusual mix of scientists, all summoned on short notice by Captain Dren. Dr. Farah, the ship's lead xenobiologist, sat at the head of the long table with her datapad displaying streams of information about human biology. Around her gathered representatives from various scientific departments, each looking more confused than the last as they reviewed the medical scans from Alan's examination. Alan himself sat in a chair near the door, feeling like a specimen under observation rather than a colleague. Captain Dren, A broad-shouldered Tyrian with silver markings along his neck that indicated his senior rank stood at the front of the room with his arms crossed. "Let me understand this correctly," Captain Dren said, his voice measured and calm despite the tension in the room. "Our human medical officer is not sick. These readings are normal for his species." "According to him, yes," Dr. Nilram replied, pulling up the scan results on the main display screen. "But I have never encountered a species with such extreme biological parameters." Dr. Farah leaned forward, her crystalline Quentari features reflecting the light from multiple screens as she worked. She had spent the past hour compiling data from the Galactic Biological Database, cross-referencing it with information about Earth and human evolution. "I have been reviewing Earth's environmental specifications," she said, her voice carrying the precise articulation that made Quentari such excellent researchers. "The planet is remarkable for its hostility to life, as we typically understand it." She brought up a three-dimensional model of Earth, rotating slowly above the conference table. Overlaid on the image were environmental statistics that made several of the assembled scientists shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Atmospheric composition is 21% oxygen," Dr. Farah continued. "This concentration is high enough to support rapid combustion. Most species maintain environments with 12 to 15% oxygen. Humans evolved breathing an atmosphere that we would consider a fire hazard." A Penthari astronomer named Wellen spoke up from across the table. "But oxygen is necessary for life. How is a higher concentration dangerous?" "Oxygen is reactive," Dr. Farah explained. "In high concentrations, it causes oxidation damage to cellular structures. Most species require careful antioxidant supplements to prevent this degradation. Humans appear to have evolved cellular mechanisms that handle this oxidative stress as a baseline function." She pulled up another chart showing comparative gravity measurements. Earth's surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. For reference, we maintain artificial gravity at 5.2 on this vessel. Humans evolved under nearly twice the gravitational force that we consider standard. Alan watched as the scientists absorbed this information. He had never really thought about Earth's gravity as particularly strong. It was just how things were at home. "This explains the muscle density," Dr. Nilram said, making notes on his personal device. "The human skeletal and muscular systems are built to operate under significantly higher gravitational stress than most species encounter." "Correct," Dr. Farah agreed. "Human bone density and muscle fiber composition reflect adaptation to a high-gravity environment. What we consider normal weight, humans would experience as quite light." Captain Dren gestured toward the thermal readings on the display. "What about the core temperature? 37 degrees seems excessively high." Dr. Farah nodded. "Human core temperature is maintained at levels that would cause fever responses in most galactic species. This high temperature supports faster metabolic processes. It also creates an environment within the body that is hostile to many potential pathogens." "They cook themselves from the inside to kill infections?" Wellen asked, his tone incredulous. "Essentially, yes," Dr. Farah confirmed. "Additionally, when humans encounter actual pathogens, their immune system can elevate core temperature even further, creating conditions that destroy invasive organisms while the human body tolerates the increased heat." Alan decided to contribute to the conversation. "We call that a fever. It's uncomfortable, but it helps us fight off diseases." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone processed this information. Dr. Farah continued her presentation, bringing up data about human digestive systems. "The stomach contains hydrochloric acid at approximately pH 2. This is strong enough to break down most organic materials and even some metals. Humans use this acid to digest their food." "What do they eat that requires such powerful digestive acids?" Pala asked, her fenral ears perked forward with interest. Nearly anything organic, Dr. Farah said, pulling up a list of common human foods. Humans are omnivorous to an extreme degree. They consume plant matter, animal tissue, fungi, and various other biological materials. Their digestive system is designed to extract nutrients from an enormous variety of sources. She highlighted several items on the list. Furthermore, humans regularly consume substances that would be toxic to most species. Caffeine, which medical officer Reed was drinking earlier, is a natural pesticide produced by plants to poison insects. Capsaicin, found in certain fruits humans call peppers, is designed to cause pain and deterrence. Theobromine, present in chocolate, is lethal to many Earth species but harmless to humans. They eat poisons for enjoyment, Captain Dren asked, his expression shifting between amazement and concern. Alan shrugged. We like the taste, plus coffee helps us stay alert during long shifts. Dr. Farah brought up another screen showing human sleep patterns. Humans maintain active cognitive function for approximately 16 to 18 hours per standard day cycle. Most galactic species require rest after 4 to 6 hours of activity. How do they maintain alertness for that long? Wellen wondered aloud. Partially through the consumption of stimulants like caffeine, Dr. Farah explained, but also through fundamental differences in neurological structure. The human brain operates constantly, processing sensory input and maintaining awareness even during rest periods. She pulled up comparative data showing brain activity during sleep. Human sleep is not true dormancy. Their brains remain active, processing memories and maintaining basic awareness of their environment. They can wake and respond to threats within seconds. Dr. Nilram added another observation. I noticed during the examination that medical officer Reed's heart rate varied significantly based on his activity level and emotional state. His cardiovascular system appears designed for rapid adjustment to changing demands. The human adrenal system, Dr. Farah said, bringing up endocrine data. When faced with stress or danger, humans can trigger a hormonal response that temporarily increases strength, speed, and pain tolerance. This fight-or-flight response is far more dramatic than similar systems in other species. Captain Dren studied Alan with new appreciation. So your body can chemically enhance itself in emergency situations. We don't really control it consciously, Alan explained. It just happens when we're scared or in danger, makes us stronger and faster for a short time. Dr. Farah closed several windows on her display and brought up a final summary screen. After reviewing all available data, I have reached a preliminary conclusion. Earth meets the scientific classification criteria for what we designate as a death world. The room went completely silent. A death world, Captain Dren repeated. Those are theoretical, planets so hostile to life that complex organisms cannot evolve. The theory requires revision, Dr. Farah said quietly. Earth is a Class 12 hazard environment by our standards. High oxygen, intense solar radiation, extreme temperature variations, powerful gravity, and geological instability. Yet life not only survived there but thrived. She looked at Alan with something approaching awe. Humans are not just adapted to a death world, they are the dominant species of one. Alan felt dozens of eyes on him, all seeing him differently than they had just hours before. So what does this mean? He asked. 5 days passed since the emergency conference, and Alan noticed the change immediately. Crew members who had previously greeted him with casual friendliness now kept a respectful distance in the corridors. Conversations that once flowed easily now carried an underlying tension, as if everyone was suddenly aware they were speaking to someone fundamentally different from themselves. Dr. Farah had requested permission to conduct additional studies, and Alan agreed. He understood the scientific curiosity, even if being treated like a research specimen made him uncomfortable. The xenobiologist had set up a series of non-invasive tests in one of the secondary laboratories, carefully designed to measure human capabilities without causing harm. Alan sat on a padded bench while Dr. Farah attached sensors to his arms and chest. Across the room, her two research assistants monitored displays showing his vital signs in real time. "We will start with basic reaction time assessment," Dr. Farah explained, holding up a small device with a button on top. "When the light activates, press the button as quickly as possible." Alan nodded, taking the device in his right hand. The test seemed simple enough. The light flashed. Alan pressed the button instantly. Dr. Farah checked her readings, then frowned. She ran the test again. And again. After the fifth repetition, she called over one of her assistants. "The results are consistent," she said quietly, though Alan could still hear her. "Average reaction time of 0.25 seconds. That's nearly twice as fast as most species." "Is that unusual?" Alan asked. "For someone not trained in combat or emergency response, yes," Dr. Farah replied. "Your natural reaction speed exceeds that of our security personnel." She moved to the next test, holding up a sealed container filled with blue gel. "Please squeeze this with your dominant hand. Apply as much pressure as you comfortably can." Alan took the container and squeezed. The gel compressed easily under his grip. The sensors on his arm recorded the force applied. Dr. Farah's eyes widened slightly as she read the data. "You are exerting 42 kilograms of force with a casual grip. Most species your size would manage approximately 20 to 25 kilograms. "Should I squeeze harder?" Alan offered. "No," Dr. Farah said quickly. "That will not be necessary." She made notes on her datapad before moving to the next assessment. This one involved a small cut on Alan's forearm, carefully administered with a sterile blade. Alan barely felt it as Dr. Farah made a shallow incision about 2 centimeters long. "We will monitor the healing process over several days," she explained, applying a clear monitoring patch over the wound. "For most species, a cut this size would take approximately 3 weeks to heal completely." Alan looked at the small wound. "This, maybe 5 or 6 days for me." Dr. Farah made another note, her expression carefully neutral. Over the following week, the research team documented the healing process. Alan came in each day for scans and visual assessments. True to his prediction, the cut sealed itself within 48 hours. By day 5, only a faint pink line remained visible. By day 7, even that had faded. "Impossible," one of the research assistants whispered, comparing before and after images on the screen. Dr. Farah remained professional, but Alan could see the amazement in her crystalline features. "Human cellular regeneration operates at rates we have never observed in naturally occurring biology. Only advanced medical intervention can achieve similar results in other species." Captain Dren visited the laboratory during one of these sessions, observing the tests with quiet interest. He stood beside Dr. Farah as she ran through cardiovascular stress assessments, having Alan walk on an inclined platform at increasing speeds. "His heart rate is elevated," the captain noted, watching the monitors. "Yes, from 70 beats per minute at rest to 140 during exertion," Dr. Farah confirmed. "But notice how quickly it returns to baseline when he stops. Within 2 minutes, his cardiovascular system has completely recovered." Alan stepped off the platform, breathing slightly harder but otherwise fine. He had run for nearly 20 minutes at a pace that would have exhausted most species within 5. Captain Dren crossed his arms, studying Alan with the analytical gaze of someone reassessing a situation. "What else have you discovered?" Dr. Farah pulled up a comprehensive chart on the main display. "Human temperature tolerance ranges from approximately 0 degrees to 45 degrees without requiring specialized equipment. They can function in atmospheric pressures from 60% to 120% of Earth standard. Their digestive system can extract nutrients from nearly any organic matter, allowing survival in diverse environments. She highlighted another section of data. Their immune system is remarkable. When exposed to a pathogen, humans develop antibodies specific to that threat. These antibodies remain in their system, providing long-term resistance to reinfection. Some human immunity can last their entire lifetime. They adapt to diseases, Captain Dren asked. Not just adapt, they remember, Dr. Farah clarified. The human immune system learns from each encounter and becomes stronger. It's a biological memory system dedicated entirely to fighting infection. Alan wiped sweat from his forehead with a towel, listening to the conversation. It felt strange hearing his own biology discussed like it was some kind of miracle when it was just normal life for him. There is something else, Dr. Farah said, her tone becoming more serious. I have been researching Earth's history. The planet has experienced 5 major extinction events over its lifetime, events that wiped out the majority of life forms each time. And humans survived these events, the captain asked. Humans did not exist during those periods, Dr. Farah explained. But the species that eventually evolved into humans did survive. Life on Earth persisted through catastrophes that would have sterilized most planets. It adapted, evolved, and eventually produced humans. She pulled up geological data showing asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and atmospheric changes that had reshaped Earth multiple times. This is a planet that has repeatedly tried to kill all life on it, yet life refused to die. It became stronger, more resilient, more adaptable with each challenge. Captain Dren was quiet for a long moment. How many humans are there now? Current galactic census data indicates approximately 11 billion, Dr. Farah replied. The captain's expression shifted. 11 billion members of a species adapted for survival in the harshest conditions imaginable. They are not aggressive by nature, Dr. Farah added quickly. My research into human culture shows strong emphasis on cooperation, creativity, and curiosity. They are quite social, forming complex communities and relationships. But they could be dangerous if threatened, Captain Dren said quietly. Dr. Farah didn't respond immediately. She glanced at Alan, who was now sitting on the bench and drinking water from a bottle, completely unaware of the weight of the conversation happening around him. Any species can be dangerous when threatened, she finally said. Humans simply have more biological tools at their disposal than most. Alan finished his water and stood up, ready for whatever test came next. He caught the serious expressions on both Captain Dren and Dr. Farah's faces. "Everything okay?" he asked. The captain nodded slowly. "Yes, Medical Officer Reed, everything is fine. Please continue with Dr. Farah's assessments." As Alan returned to the testing area, Captain Dren leaned closer to Dr. Farah and spoke in a low voice. "Compile all your findings into a comprehensive report. I need to contact the Galactic Unity Council." Dr. Farah's eyes widened slightly. "You believe this is a matter for the Council?" 11 billion Deathworlders have joined Galactic Society, Captain Dren said softly. "Yes, I believe the Council needs to know exactly what that means." Alarms screamed through the cargo bay section of the Pathfinder, red emergency lights casting harsh shadows across the metal walls. Alan was halfway through his shift in medical when the alert came through on his communicator. Cargo container breach, toxic atmospheric contamination, 3 crew members trapped. He ran toward the cargo bay, his boots pounding against the deck plates. Other crew members were moving in the opposite direction, following evacuation protocols. By the time Alan reached the sealed bulkhead doors, a small group had already gathered, including Security Officer Grath, a heavy-set Tyrian whose job involved handling exactly these kinds of emergencies. "Status?" Alan asked, slightly out of breath. Grath gestured toward the sealed section visible through the reinforced window. Container 7 Alpha ruptured during transfer, released tilium gas into the entire cargo bay. We have 3 crew members trapped inside. A Quentari loader named Cyril, Dr. Nilram, and a Fenral inventory specialist named Kess. Through the window, Alan could see the 3 figures huddled near the far wall, clearly trying to stay conscious as the invisible gas filled the space. The atmospheric displays showed dangerous concentration levels climbing steadily. "How long until breathing equipment arrives?" Alan demanded. 15 minutes, Grath replied, his jaw tight with frustration. "The primary gear is in maintenance. We are retrieving backup equipment from Storage Bay 3. Alan looked at the atmospheric analysis panel beside the door. His eyes scanned the chemical breakdown of the contaminated air. Nitrogen compounds, sulfur dioxide, trace amounts of methane. Lethal to most oxygen-breathing species within minutes. "They don't have 15 minutes, Alan said quietly. "I know," Grath replied, his voice heavy with the weight of what that meant. "We are moving as fast as we can." Alan studied the readout again, his mind racing through possibilities. The gas composition was toxic, certainly, but not immediately fatal to humans. Sulfur dioxide would irritate his lungs and throat. The nitrogen concentration was higher than ideal, but nothing on that list would kill him in the time it would take to get 3 people out. He reached for the door control panel. Grath grabbed his arm immediately, surprisingly strong despite the lower gravity he was adapted to. "What are you doing? The atmosphere in there will kill you." "No," Alan said simply, "it won't." He pulled up the comparison data on his personal device, showing human atmospheric tolerance ranges alongside the current contaminated environment readings. The security officer stared at the numbers, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "This shows you can breathe that," Grath said slowly, "but the readings must be wrong." "They're not," Alan assured him. He was already entering the override code for the bulkhead seal. "I'm going in." "Wait," Grath commanded, but Alan was already keying in the final sequence. The door hissed open, and immediately the acrid smell of sulfur filled Alan's nostrils. He stepped through quickly, and the door sealed behind him automatically, preventing the contaminated atmosphere from spreading to the rest of the ship. Alan took a breath, and his lungs protested immediately. The sulfur dioxide burned his throat and made his eyes water. It was deeply unpleasant, like breathing air near an active volcano. But it wasn't killing him. His body processed the hostile atmosphere the same way it handled countless other environmental challenges, with discomfort but not failure. Through the haze, he could see the 3 trapped crew members. They had collapsed against the wall, barely conscious. Alan crossed the cargo bay in quick strides, his human musculature carrying him easily despite the poor air quality. He reached Dr. Nilram first. The Orvathi physician was struggling to breathe, his movements weak and uncoordinated. Alan lifted him carefully, surprised again by how light the doctor felt in the ship's artificial gravity. What should have been a difficult carry felt almost easy. He carried Dr. Nilram to the door and triggered the emergency medical override. The outer chamber opened, allowing Alan to deposit the doctor in the clean air of the transition space before resealing. Medical personnel immediately pulled Dr. Nilram to safety. Alan turned back into the contaminated bay, 2 more to go. Kess, the Fenral specialist, had lost consciousness completely. Alan picked her up, her furred body limp in his arms. She weighed perhaps 30 kilograms, barely any effort to carry. He moved her to the transition chamber, placed her gently on the floor, and cycled the door again. That left Cyril, the Quentari loader. She was still conscious but fatting fast, her crystalline features clouded and dull. Alan reached her and knelt down. "Stay with me," he said, his voice rough from the sulfur irritation. "Almost out." She tried to respond but couldn't form words. Alan lifted her, and for a moment he felt the full weight of her larger frame. Quentari were denser than most species, their crystalline biology making them heavier than they appeared. Under normal circumstances, carrying someone Cyril's size would have been difficult. But adrenaline was flooding Alan's system now, triggered by the danger and urgency of the situation. His heart rate had spiked to 160 beats per minute. His muscles felt stronger, more responsive. The same biological emergency response system that Dr. Farah had documented was now operating at full capacity. He carried Cyril across the cargo bay at a run, her weight manageable despite the hostile atmosphere burning his lungs. The transition chamber cycled one final time, and willing hands pulled Cyril to safety. Alan stood in the contaminated cargo bay alone, breathing hard. His eyes watered continuously, tears streaming down his face from the sulfur irritation. His throat felt raw, and he knew he would be coughing for days. But he was alive and conscious. The atmospheric scrubbers activated, beginning the process of cleaning the air in the cargo bay. It would take another 10 minutes to reduce the contamination to safe levels. Alan decided he could wait that long. Through the window, he could see crew members gathered, staring at him with expressions of shock and something approaching fear. Dr. Nilram was being treated by Pala, oxygen mask over his face. Kess was unconscious but breathing with assistance. Cyril was coughing but alive. All three would survive because a human had walked into an atmosphere that should have killed him. When the atmospheric readings finally showed safe levels, the door opened and Grath entered first, followed by Captain Dren. The security officer approached Alan with obvious concern. "Are you injured?" Grath asked. Alan wiped tears from his eyes, his voice hoarse when he spoke. "Just irritated. The sulfur burns a bit, but I'll be fine." Captain Dren stared at him in silence for several seconds. "You walked into a toxic atmosphere without protection." "Yes, sir," Alan confirmed. "And you carried 3 people to safety in conditions that would have killed you within minutes, according to every safety protocol we have." "The protocols are written for most species," Alan said, his throat raw and painful. "Not for humans." Dr. Farah appeared in the doorway, her scanner already active, and pointed at Alan. She approached slowly, reading the data streaming across her device. "Your lungs processed the sulfur compounds and expelled them through normal respiratory function," she said, her voice filled with scientific amazement. "You suffered tissue irritation but no permanent damage. Your body simply categorized a lethal atmosphere as poor air quality." Alan coughed, the sound harsh and painful. "Feels worse than poor quality right now." "You will recover fully within days," Dr. Farah said, still scanning. "A normal species would require weeks of medical intervention to heal from this exposure, if they survived at all." Captain Dren stepped closer, his expression serious. "How many humans are aboard vessels and stations across the galaxy right now?" Dr. Farah checked her datapad. "Current estimates suggest approximately 40,000 humans in various galactic positions." The captain was quiet for a moment. 40,000 individuals capable of surviving conditions we consider lethal." Alan looked at the captain, finally understanding the weight behind the question. "We're not dangerous, sir. We just want to be part of the galactic community." "I believe you," Captain Dren said quietly. "But the Council needs to understand what human biology actually means." Captain Dren's personal quarters were modest, decorated with only a few items that reflected his Turian heritage. He sat at his desk, the glow from multiple display screens casting blue light across his face as he reviewed the report one final time. Every word had been carefully chosen, every data point triple-checked. This communication would reach the highest levels of the Galactic Unity Council, and accuracy was essential. He began typing the final summary section, his fingers moving with practiced precision across the holographic keyboard. The document outlined everything they had discovered about human biology over the past 3 weeks: extreme temperature tolerance, resistance to toxic substances, rapid healing capabilities, strength-to-mass ratios that exceeded standard biological models, an immune system that learned and adapted to new threats, cardiovascular endurance that allowed sustained activity far beyond typical species limitations. The report read like a catalog of biological advantages that evolution had somehow concentrated into a single species. Dren paused at a section detailing Earth's environmental conditions. Dr. Farah had provided extensive data showing how the planet met every criterion for a Class 12 hazard world. High gravity, intense solar radiation, volatile weather patterns, active geological systems, and an atmosphere rich enough in oxygen to support rapid combustion. Most troubling was the section on human population and expansion. In just 2 centuries, humans had grown from 1 billion individuals to 11 billion. They had developed space travel within 150 years of their industrial revolution. Most species required 400 to 600 years to reach comparable technological milestones. Humans moved fast. They adapted quickly. They overcame challenges that would have stopped other civilizations completely. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," Dren called. Dr. Farah stepped inside, carrying her personal datapad. "I wanted to review the final report before you send it to the council." Dren gestured to the display. "Please verify that I have represented your findings accurately." The Quentari scientist read through the document carefully, her crystalline features reflecting the light from the screen. After several minutes, she nodded. "This is accurate, comprehensive, and precise." "But is it alarming?" Dren asked quietly. "When the council reads this, will they see humans as potential allies or potential threats?" Dr. Farah was quiet for a moment, considering the question with the careful thought that defined her species. "That depends on how they interpret capability versus intent." She pulled up her own files on her datapad, showing cultural research she had compiled alongside the biological data. "I have spent considerable time reviewing human art, literature, philosophy, and recorded history. They are a complex species, capable of both great compassion and terrible violence." "Like most species," Dren observed. "Yes," Dr. Farah agreed. "But most species did not evolve fighting for survival against a planet that repeatedly tried to eliminate all life. Human culture is shaped by that struggle. They value resilience, adaptability, and the ability to overcome impossible odds." She pulled up examples of human music, showing Dren compositions that ranged from gentle melodies to powerful symphonies. Their art reflects both the beauty they found in their harsh world and the determination required to survive it. Dren studied the examples, trying to understand the species through their creative expressions. They seemed to celebrate survival. "More than that," Dr. Farah said, "they celebrate cooperation in the face of hardship. Much of human culture emphasizes working together, supporting one another, protecting those who cannot protect themselves." She showed him excerpts from human philosophy and literature, texts that discussed concepts like empathy, justice, and shared responsibility. They are not conquerors by nature. They are survivors who learned that cooperation was more effective than competition. "But they do have a history of warfare," Dren noted, having read the historical sections of Earth's records. "Extensive warfare," Dr. Farah confirmed. "Humans fought each other for resources, territory, and ideological differences. But they also developed international cooperation, peacekeeping forces, and eventually unified enough to present themselves to galactic society as a single entity rather than competing factions." She pulled up records of Earth's application to join the Galactic Unity Council, submitted 3 months earlier. "They came to us seeking knowledge and friendship, not conquest or resources. Their stated goals are exploration, cultural exchange, and scientific collaboration. Dren read through the application documents, seeing the earnest tone in which humans had presented themselves to the wider galaxy. They had been honest about their capabilities and transparent about their intentions. The evaluation team that visited Earth approved them for preliminary membership, Dren said, pulling up those records. But the evaluators did not understand the significance of Earth's environment. They saw the planet as unusual but not dangerous. An oversight that the Council will want to correct, Dr. Farah said. Which brings us to the central question of your report. What do you recommend? Dren leaned back in his chair, the weight of that question settling heavily on his shoulders. As captain of a research vessel, his opinion carried significant influence. The Council would seriously consider whatever recommendation he made. Medical Officer Reed risked his life to save 3 crew members, Dren said slowly. He did not hesitate. He did not consider the danger to himself. He simply acted to protect others. He pulled up the security footage from the cargo bay incident, showing Alan carrying each crew member to safety despite the toxic atmosphere. This is not the action of a species we should fear. Dr. Farah nodded agreement. I have observed him interacting with crew members over these past weeks. He is patient when teaching, gentle when treating injuries, and respectful of cultural differences. His biology may be exceptional, but his character is admirable. Dren made a decision. I will recommend that the Council welcome humans as full members of galactic society, but I will also suggest enhanced cultural exchange programs so that other species can understand humans better. Fear comes from ignorance. Understanding comes from exposure. He added a final section to his report, detailing specific recommendations for human integration into the wider galactic community. Educational programs, joint scientific initiatives, cultural ambassador positions. There is one more thing, Dr. Farah said. The Council should know that humans are already forming bonds with other species. The crew members Reed saved have become quite protective of him. They understand that his biology makes him different, but they also recognize that his actions make him valuable. Dren smiled slightly. Yes, I have noticed that Dr. Nilram now defends Medical Officer Reed quite vigorously when others express concern about human capabilities. Personal experience is powerful, Dr. Farah observed. When you are saved by someone, you stop seeing them as a threat and start seeing them as a friend. Dren finalized the report and prepared it for encrypted transmission to the Council headquarters. The document was comprehensive, honest, and carefully balanced between presenting human capabilities and human character. Do you think they will be accepted? Dr. Farah asked. I believe so, Dren replied. The galactic unity was founded on principles of cooperation and mutual benefit. Humans may be unusual, but they are not hostile. They bring unique perspectives and abilities that could strengthen the community. He initiated the transmission sequence, watching as the report began its journey to the Council. Within hours, the highest-ranking officials in galactic government would be reading about human biology and debating what it meant for the future. Whatever the Council decides, Dren added quietly, I intend to keep Medical Officer Reed aboard this ship. He has proven himself valuable not because of what he can survive, but because of who he chooses to protect. Dr. Farah collected her datapad and prepared to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back at the captain. Humans have a saying, judge people by their actions, not their appearance. Perhaps we should apply that wisdom to their biology as well. Dren nodded. Actions over biology, character over capability. Yes, I believe that is the correct approach. As Dr. Farah left, Dren turned back to his displays, watching the transmission progress indicator as it climbed toward completion. The report was sent. Now they would wait for the Council's response. In the meantime, there was a ship to run and a crew to manage. including one human medical officer who probably had no idea his biology had become a matter of galactic political discussion. The medical bay had become an unexpected gathering place over the past few days. Alan sat at his workstation, reviewing inventory reports, while Dr. Nilram worked at the adjacent console. The Orvathi physician had returned to full duty 3 days after the cargo bay incident, and he had insisted on working alongside Alan rather than avoiding him. The antibiotic supplies are running low, Alan noted, highlighting the relevant section on his display. We should request a resupply at the next station. Dr. Nilram nodded, making notes. Agreed. Also, I have been reviewing treatment protocols for mixed-species medical emergencies. I believe we should develop specific procedures for situations involving humans. Alan looked up, slightly surprised, because of what happened in the cargo bay. Partially, Dr. Nilram admitted, but also because I realize now that I have been treating you using protocols designed for species very different from your own. That was a mistake. You require care tailored to human biology, not generic procedures. It was the closest thing to an apology Alan had heard from the reserved physician, and he appreciated the gesture. I understand. None of you had encountered a human before me. There was bound to be a learning curve. The medical bay doors opened, and Cyril entered, walking with only a slight limp from her recovery. The Quentari loader had visited medical every day since the incident, ostensibly for follow-up examinations, but clearly also to check on Alan. "How are you feeling today?" Alan asked, gesturing for her to take a seat on one of the examination beds. "Better," Cyril said, her crystalline voice carrying more strength than it had days ago. "The respiratory therapy is working well. Dr. Nilram says I should be cleared for full duty by tomorrow." "That's excellent news," Alan said sincerely. He ran a quick scan, checking her lung function and oxygen saturation. Everything looked good. Cyril watched him work, her faceted eyes reflecting the light from the medical scanner. "I wanted to thank you again, for coming into the cargo bay, for carrying me out." "You would have done the same for me," Alan replied simply. "I could not have," Cyril said quietly. "The atmosphere would have killed me within minutes. Only you could have survived long enough to help us." Alan finished the scan and set the equipment aside. "That doesn't make me special. It just means I was in the right place at the right time." "You are wrong," Cyril said firmly. "It makes you exactly the kind of person we need aboard this ship." Before Alan could respond, his communicator chimed. Captain Dren's voice came through clearly. "Medical Officer Reed, please report to the conference room. Dr. Farah and Dr. Nilram, you as well." The 3 of them exchanged glances before making their way to the conference room. When they arrived, they found Captain Dren waiting with several other senior staff members. The main display screen showed the official seal of the Galactic Unity Council. "We have received a response to my report," Captain Dren announced without preamble. "The Council has reviewed the information about human biology and Earth's environmental classification." Alan felt his stomach tighten slightly. This was it. The moment when the galaxy would decide if humans were welcome or if they were too different, too dangerous to be trusted. Captain Dren pulled up the Council's official response on the main screen. Administrator Wellies, speaking on behalf of the full Council membership, has issued the following statement. He read from the document, his voice steady and clear. "The Galactic Unity Council acknowledges receipt of Captain Dren's comprehensive report on human biological capabilities and Earth's environmental classification as a death world. After careful review and extensive deliberation, the Council has reached the following conclusions." Alan held his breath. First, the Council confirms that humans meet the biological criteria for a death world-evolved species, representing unique adaptations to extreme environmental conditions. Second, the Council recognizes that human presence in galactic society introduces capabilities previously unknown in our community. Captain Dren paused, then continued. Third, and most importantly, the Council affirms that biological capability is not equivalent to hostile intent. Humans have demonstrated peaceful integration, professional conduct, and positive contributions to galactic society during their preliminary membership period. The captain looked up from the screen, a slight smile on his face. Therefore, the Council grants full membership status to humanity and welcomes Earth as an official member world of the galactic unity. Furthermore, the Council recommends expanded cultural exchange programs to facilitate understanding between humans and other species. The room remained silent for a moment as everyone processed the decision. Then Dr. Farah began a slow, deliberate clapping gesture used by Quentari to show approval. Dr. Nilram joined in with his own species version, a soft clicking sound. Within seconds, the entire room was filled with various forms of applause and approval from different species. Alan felt an unexpected wave of emotion. Relief, certainly, but also gratitude that they had been judged on their actions rather than their biology. Captain Dren approached Alan directly. The Council specifically mentioned the cargo bay incident in their deliberations. Your actions demonstrated that human strength is matched by human compassion. That combination is exactly what the galactic unity needs. I just did what anyone would have done, Alan said, though his voice was thick with emotion. No, Captain Dren said firmly. You did what only you could have done, and you chose to do it without hesitation. That is the measure of character we value. Dr. Farah stepped forward, her datapad showing additional information from the Council's response. They are requesting volunteers for cultural ambassador positions. Humans who would be willing to serve aboard various vessels and stations to help other species understand your capabilities and your culture. I'll volunteer, Alan said immediately. If serving here has taught me anything, it's that understanding comes from working together. Dr. Nilram made a soft sound of approval. I will submit a formal recommendation supporting your application. You have been an excellent colleague and a credit to your species. Over the following days, news of the Council's decision spread throughout the Pathfinder. Crew members who had been nervous around Alan began approaching him with curiosity instead of caution. They asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about what it was like growing up on a death world. Alan answered patiently, explaining that Earth didn't feel dangerous to humans because it was home. He shared stories about Earth's beauty alongside its harshness, about human achievements and human failures, about the diversity of cultures and perspectives that existed among his people. Cyril organized a gathering in the common area, inviting crew members to share food and stories from their respective homeworlds. Alan brought examples of human cuisine, carefully selected to avoid ingredients that would be toxic to other species. He was amused to watch crew members cautiously taste foods flavored with mild spices, treating black pepper like an exotic adventure. This is what you consider bland? Kes asked, her fenral taste receptors clearly overwhelmed by even the gentlest seasoning. Very bland, Alan confirmed with a smile. On Earth, we would add much more flavor. Deathworlders, Kes muttered, but she was smiling as she said it. A week after the Council's decision, Alan stood in the observation deck, looking out at the stars streaming past as the Pathfinder traveled through hyperspace. Dr. Farah joined him, her crystalline form reflecting the starlight beautifully. What are you thinking about? She asked. Alan considered the question. I'm thinking that a few weeks ago, everyone was afraid of what human biology could do. Now they're curious about who humans are. That feels like progress. It is progress, Dr. Farah agreed. Fear is natural when encountering something unknown, but fear can be transformed into understanding through experience and education. She pulled up images of Earth on her datapad, showing the planet as seen from space. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling across the surface. Your world looks beautiful from this distance. It is hard to imagine it is as dangerous as our classifications suggest. It's both, Alan said quietly. Beautiful and dangerous, harsh and nurturing. It made us strong, but it also taught us to value life, to protect each other, to work together. Those lessons matter more than the strength. Dr. Farah saved the image to her personal files. I would like to visit Earth someday, to see a death world that produced a species capable of such compassion. You would be welcome, Alan assured her. Humans love sharing our home with visitors. We would probably overwhelm you with hospitality. I look forward to it, Dr. Farah said. As they stood together watching the stars, Alan reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. He had gone from being a medical curiosity to being a bridge between species, helping others understand that different did not mean dangerous. His communicator chimed softly. A message from Earth, from his family, congratulating him on the Council's decision and expressing pride in what he had accomplished. He smiled, composing a response that tried to explain everything that had happened while making it clear that he was exactly where he wanted to be. The Pathfinder continued its journey through space, carrying its crew of 48 different species, including one human who had helped them all understand that the strongest biology in the galaxy meant nothing without a good heart to guide it.